All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our next event in our Success in STEM Week. Really excited today to get to share with all of you some opportunities for you to get involved with undergraduate research and how to kind of start that process to further your STEM career goals. So my name is Caitlin Morton. I am the coordinator for supplemental instruction in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion with our Scholarship and Supplemental Academic Services Unit. So we're really excited today to bring you two really great presenters and speakers who are going to share with you how you can start to get involved in undergraduate research. So first, we're going to have Kayla Daniel from the Office of Undergraduate Research and Creative Inquiry share a little bit about what their office does and how you can get involved. And then we're going to hear from Dr. David Delane from the College of Engineering Education to give you some tips and tricks on how to start to get involved with some research yourself. As with the rest of our events from this week, the session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube at the end of this week. So you can always go back and reference it if you have any questions. And then there will be the opportunity for you to ask any questions you might have later on during the presentation. So with that, we will get started. And Kayla, I will turn it over to you. Let you share your screen if you have anything you need to. Perfect.
All right, can everyone see my slides? Perfect. I have 3 monitors, and so it's always a hit or a miss if I'm going to share the wrong one and someone's going to, look at my 20 unread emails. But like Caitlin introduced, I'm Kayla Daniel. I am from the Undergraduate Research and Creative Inquiry Office. I'm also an alumna of Ohio State. I graduated in 2017 with my bachelor's in sociology, and I'm also a master's student. We love Buckeyes for life. So I'm really excited today to be sharing how to get involved with undergraduate research with you. It's something I love to talk about with students. So a little overview of our presentation for today, if it'll go. Oh, maybe. All right, so we'll talk about why you should get involved in research as a student. Then we'll talk about how to get involved, including our 3 steps to getting started in research that I'll outline. I'll also talk about resources that our office has to assist you in this process, the office contact information, and hopefully some time for questions. I know we have time at the end of the entire presentation as well. So to get us started, why should you do research as an undergraduate student? And honestly, there are so many different reasons, so many different benefits. I mean, on this slide, you can see I outlined so many, and I could have put way more if I was allowed to type in size 4 font. But unfortunately, I had to narrow it down to these 3 categories. So with undergraduate research, there are a lot of academic benefits fitting perfectly with the Success in STEM Week that can help you with your time here at Ohio State. So one of the best benefits, I think, for students is getting to work with an undergraduate or getting to work with a faculty member on your undergraduate research. With having a faculty member, you have a great resource, not only for helping you with possible future careers, talking about grad school, they could help serve as a reference, and they're just someone who could be a nice support person in your field. Additionally, you can apply concept learned in your classes to real life. Undergraduate research is a form of experiential education, so we really encourage students to take part in this and, having a way to really apply what you're learning outside of just doing, papers and lab reports. You get to put it into an actual project and something tangible. And lastly, you can learn more about your chosen field of interest. You're not limited to just your major, minor, or program when doing research. You have all of the university to explore. So we definitely encourage you to, pick things that you're really interested in and try to find faculty who their research matches your interest. Some of those professional benefits of doing research, you get develop relevant and marketable skills. I'll say that employers, really like to see undergraduate research on your resume. It shows a lot of really great skills that you'll have learned, such as communication, teamwork, critical thinking, different aspects that can really help you succeed in various fields, even if you're not going into a research career. But you can explore and prepare for future careers. We have students who actually go on to have careers in research when they graduate. So benefits like having Battelle right on South Campus or even Nationwide Children's Hospital and the Wexner Medical Center, there are really great opportunities to have a clinical research career or an industry research career if that's something you might be interested in. You can also network in your field. We have students who go to different conferences or even different universities to present their research. And that gives you the opportunity to learn more from other people and even share your experiences to help work on that networking and those communication skills as well. And then just some personal benefits that come with doing research. You can develop internal standards of excellence. You're really holding yourself accountable for either you're part of the project or maybe you're writing a thesis and you need to keep yourself on your timeline to make sure you hit all those deadlines. So you really are holding yourself accountable for that. You can also show the ability to meet challenges and complete projects. Some of those skills are going to be really great, whether, it's going to help you in grad school or in future careers. It's just another great skill to have in your pocket. And lastly, you can discover some of your personal interests. So like I said, you're not limited to just those, but we found students who have really found what they want to study and pursue in their futures by doing research. And some of them even have changed careers or like grad school goals from like pre-med to pre-pharmacy because they realized that by doing pharmacy research, that was the direction they wanted to go in the health realm instead. So there are so many options to really discover what you're interested in and make these opportunities special for you. So now that I have absolutely convinced you all to get involved in undergraduate research, we should talk about how to get involved in undergraduate research. So I want to say it really is not as scary as it seems. I know Ohio State is huge and we have so many opportunities, but that's amazing because that means you can really find or create opportunities that work best for you. So our office provides plenty of resources and information, which I'll go through in the rest of these slides. So, there's someone over here in your corner that can help you out through this process. And I do want to have a little caveat at the bottom that most students are the ones who reach out to faculty members to get involved, not the other way around. There are some different departments that do post opportunities for students, and we did have some on our website. Our website actually got completely overhauled and redone last night. So they're not currently on there, but we do have research postings at times. So you can see what they're recruiting for. But honestly, by identifying and contacting faculty you're interested in, that's the best way to make an opportunity that works the best for you. So with that, I like to talk about our 3 steps to getting involved in research. Now, I know it's hard to say that you water it down to just 3 steps, but it's a great guide to help you at least, get involved in the process. So first, make sure you define that topic of interest. In my advising appointments, I have a lot of students who come to me and they say, I want to do history research. I want to do biology research. Cool. Those are incredibly broad fields. So when you're thinking about doing research, think about specific things you might be interested. Like if you want to go to med school and maybe you want to study cardiology once you're there, let's start thinking about things like that. Do you maybe want to look at the Department of Anatomy or even cardiology, or are you interested in looking at medicines and maybe you should take a look at pharmacy instead? So, think about more specific topics inside broad categories that you're interested in, because that will help you with the second step, identifying those potential faculty members. Every college and department around campus does have faculty directories, and on those faculty biography pages, you can see really helpful identifying information, such as, their contact information. Do they have a lab associated? What are their research interests? Do they have publications? Maybe even take some time to scan and read through some of those publications. I know that some might be, above your comprehension level, or they might be talking about technology you've never even heard of, but that's something great that you can put in those emails to say, I'm really interested in that and I would love to learn more and understand exactly what your work is. So, by taking the time to learn about this faculty member, that helps with number 3, contacting those potential faculty members. When you email faculty, you want to make sure that you're introducing yourself, identifying why exactly you're reaching out to them and why you're interested in their specific research. They definitely don't want a generic copy and paste email that definitely went to their whole department. So make sure you take the time to say, why are you reaching out to them specifically? It's going to go a long way. So I know that those are very high level, but we do have resources on our website where I have videos and tips that break down these 3 steps and can be really helpful in identifying, how to get the process started for you. And I also want to talk about a little bit more about doing research in STEM fields, because it is very common at Ohio State, of course, for our STEM students to be doing research and to be finding opportunities. So I want to make sure that I talked about it. So some tips for success that I have seen, of course, like I've said before, do your homework. And I don't just mean in your classes, of course, do your homework, but I mean, do the work to identify these faculty and these opportunities. Look into yourself, see, what are my goals? If you want to pursue a PhD in chemistry, take a look at some of those chemistry faculty, or even maybe take a look at chemical and biomolecular engineering. Find something and find faculty that really align with your interests and your goals. And that's a really great way to, find opportunities, because find so many students who just, pick random faculty, email them, start a position, and realize they hate it. And that might ruin their entire research experience for them. So really take the time to, think about what's best for you. Also, it's good to update your resume. So something I like to encourage students to do is under your education section for Ohio State, I encourage students to have a section that includes relevant coursework. So this could mean anything from your lab-based courses, if you want to stay in like a chemistry, biology, medicine, including things like general chemistry, microbiology, biology 1114. Ones that have that lab component can be really helpful, because some faculty are looking for some of those courses to help show, oh, you've been exposed to a lab setting even for your classes. So that's something good that they want to see. Alternatively, with some engineering students, I've seen that making sure that you talk about some of your coding and software skills that you've learned, whether it's from, the general classes or things that you've learned outside of your classes, those can be really helpful as well. So just make sure that you're highlighting the skills that you do have. But of course, faculty and graduate students are going to teach you what you need to know. So you don't need to be an expert coming in. No students are. And then lastly, don't be afraid to talk with your professors and your TAs about their research, who they might be working with. And even if you talk to your faculty and you are not interested in their specific research at all, they might be able to help connect you with someone who has research you're interested in. And that's a great way to open up an email to them to say, oh, you are recommended by my chemistry professor to learn more about your research. So use the resources that you have available to you to make the most of this process. So with that, I did want to talk about timing and balance with research. I do want to highlight that there is no one right time to start doing research. I have seen students come here for orientation, find a project, and start their first day on campus. And I have seen last semester seniors get a project after spring break, do it all summer, and then move on to their next activity in the fall. It really, you have to think about what's best for you. Do you have the scheduling to fit it in there? Do you maybe want to consider taking 15 credit hours next semester so you can start then? Things like that. So it's all about finding what's best for you. Also, academics should always be your priority. Like I said before, this is something that is supposed to supplement your education, not overtake it. So, make sure that you are allowing yourself enough time to dedicate to your classes and homework and things like that. Faculty are really good about working with students, especially around like midterms and finals time to, make sure that they're not being overloaded in their schedules, but can still get some time to work on their projects. And that kind of goes in with number 3. Major research can span multiple semesters. So it's really important to make sure that you're planning ahead. Like I said before, if you know you're going to be doing research in the spring, maybe you should adjust your credit hours to help make sure you have enough time. Working with your academic advisor is really key on this, because they can help make sure that you are staying on track to graduate when you want to or you're supposed to, and can make sure that you are taking the classes you need and helping you find ways to fit all of those together. So there's a lot of balancing work, but it's a lot easier than it sounds. I also wanted to talk about additional opportunities that students find when doing research. So I like to highlight the picture in this slide, 1, because I took it, but 2, because the student on the left is presenting her research at the World Conference on Undergraduate Research. So this took place in 2018 in Bremen, Germany, and Ohio State was fortunate enough, our office was able to take 14 students to this world conference with students from all around the world. And there were 6 main categories, and Jamie, the presenter, actually ended up winning her category. So one of 6 winners in the whole world came from Ohio State. So I love to talk about that, but honestly, there are so many opportunities both at Ohio State, around the country and around the world for students to get out there with their research. So part of that comes with receiving funding. There are so many opportunities for students to get funding for their research. So there are things like if you are a second year who might be interested in using STEP, that is a very popular idea. Our office has multiple funding opportunities in the summer. There are also different ones in different colleges and departments like Arts and Sciences, Office of International Affairs, College of Engineering. These all have different opportunities for students to apply for funding. And I know that some labs will actually work with students if they are work study eligible to let them use work study for doing research as well. So, there are a lot of options out there to help with the financial component, especially if, students have to work a part-time job. I know I did in college, so getting funding for my external opportunities really helped offset, not having to work as many hours. Additionally, students can complete a thesis. So this can be part of a capstone for some of your majors, but can also be really nice if you're interested in publishing at all or getting a research distinction on your diploma. So if you're interested in that, each college has its own requirements for completing a thesis and what that looks like, but it is very attainable for a lot of students. Presenting at a conference is also very popular. So I'll talk about it in our slide, but our office offers multiple presentation opportunities throughout the year, but we also have a lot of students who attend national and international conferences, both focused on undergraduate research and focused on their field specific work. And a lot of them actually can travel with, their faculty mentors to go to some of those field specific ones. And that's another great place to network as well. And so lastly, with publishing in a journal, we also have a lot of students who are published authors by the time they graduate. So that's also something a lot of students have the opportunity for. And that's another great track if you're interested in completing a thesis. A lot of them can turn their thesis into a publishable article. So I know these seem like a lot, but it's really great opportunities, and a lot of our students get to achieve a lot of these. So some frequently asked questions about getting involved in research. How many hours a week will be dedicated to research? Unfortunately, there's no cookie cutter answer for this, but I would say typically during main semesters like spring and autumn, students are doing somewhere between 5 to 15 hours a week on their research. But of course, this can be adjusted, and you can work with a faculty mentor to talk about, how many hours are really feasible for you, and if that can even be adjusted week by week if you know that you might have more assignments coming up. It's all about communicating, what you can do and not being pressured to take on more time than you can allow. Are there any requirements to getting started? No, besides being an undergraduate who wants to do research, there are no formal requirements to getting started. However, like I said before, sometimes faculty might want to see some of those lab courses or different like coding or software skills they might want ahead of time. But again, those aren't required. They're just suggestions. 3, are student researchers compensated? So another tricky question, but unfortunately, most undergraduate research positions are unpaid. And that's why we like to talk about funding to help offset some of that time with students who are doing research and, might need that compensation. Another way that we see students can get compensated, although not monetarily, is by getting research credit hours. So there are so many benefits to getting credit hours for your research, but I think they're really nice if you want to go to graduate school. Having that undergraduate research right on your transcript is going to look really nice. Even if it's on your resume and you talk about it in interviews or essays, it's nice to have it on your transcript as well. There are also some majors that allow you to use research credit hours for either your upper level elective courses, a capstone, and I know it's going to be part of the new GE, which I don't think will affect any of you, but for future students, that'll be really nice that they can use undergraduate research as a GE. And so definitely, if you are interested in that, your academic advisor is the one who has to put you in those credit hours, but it's a really great option. So I encourage you to seek that out if that's something you're interested in. And then lastly, can I propose my own research idea to a faculty? Absolutely. I will say I typically see it more often in arts, humanities, social sciences, education, but it is not unheard of to propose your own research idea in STEM as well. I actually just did an advising appointment for a student this morning who's trying to propose his own idea. So it's definitely an option. So with that, just consider some of the things you're interested in researching in, or if you have specific research questions you might want to work on, type those up into a document and attach it when you are reaching out to faculty to say, I'm interested in possibly pursuing one of these research ideas and was wondering if you might want to serve as my faculty mentor, and they might help you, write a thesis or go through the process. So that's absolutely an avenue you can consider as well. So how can our office help you out with getting involved in research? So we have a lot of great resources for students I wanted to highlight. So first, we offer advising appointments. This is where you get to meet one-on-one with the office staff member, me, and we'll talk about those 3 steps to getting started, but we'll talk about what you're interested in specifically. So we'll take a look, within your major, outside of there that I see other students working on. Do you want to look at medicine, pharmacy, engineering, whatever, I can help you out with it. So, if you start to go through this process on your own and you get overwhelmed or confused or lost, please reach out to us. That's why we offer this assistance to help you out. We also have different grants and funding, like I mentioned earlier. So we have 2 summer funding opportunities. One is an international research grant where we support a student to go do research abroad for the summer, not coordinated with the study abroad, but more outside of that, but still doing research abroad. So that is an opportunity. As well as we have our URAP program, so Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program. This is for students to apply. They have to have a project already outlined when they are applying, but essentially we hire students to do their research over the summer. So we would, hire and pay you like you're doing a part-time job, but it covers the hours you're working on research. And so that's a really great resource for students, especially if you want to stay in Columbus over the summer. So I do encourage applying for that. We have information on our website, which I'll have on the next slide. And lastly, like I also mentioned earlier, we have plenty of presentation opportunities for students. So actually coming up in the next few weeks, we have our Autumn Undergraduate Research Festival. That's going to be virtual. So it'll be on a separate website. Students will be posting their presentations via video. So you can absolutely go through there, see what your peers are working on and see if, you're inspired by any of that, or maybe want to contact their mentor because you really liked their research project. That's a really great way to get involved and to learn more. We also have an additional one in spring, but actually in the spring, it'll be in person. So thinking more about your traditional like poster presentations and like oral slideshow presentations. So we'll be moving back to that in spring. We also have our Denman Undergraduate Research Forum. That is a senior only judged competition that is sponsored by the Denman family, who are alumni from Ohio State. And so that one is a really great final presentation for a lot of our students who are graduating. We have a 3-minute thesis competition that happened last week. So students have 3 minutes, 1 slide to describe their entire research project. It's one of my favorite events because I tried to make a sample video and could not get my speech under 5. As we can see, I'm very wordy. So definitely, these really great presentation opportunities to work on those communication skills, elevator speeches about your research, and honestly, just great ways to interact with your peers who are doing research. And these are all open to all majors, all kinds of projects, whether it's independent, in a lab, multidisciplinary, it doesn't matter. We work with all of it. So lastly, I wanted to make sure you all had access to our contact information. So our website is ugresearch.osu.edu. And like I said, I just got a refresh last night. So it looks like our website was no longer made in 1993. So a lot of our really great resources live there. Similarly, our email is ugresearch@osu.edu. So, if after this presentation you have any additional questions, anything like that, please send us an email. That's what we're here for, to help you out. Office phone number, I will say Skype for phones hates me, so I don't always get the phone calls that come through, but you can always try to reach out to us via phone. I might get it. And then our address, we're located at 220 West 12th, aka the Kuhn Honors and Scholars House, which is right next to Hale Hall. So definitely, I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you want to stop by and have questions, or sometimes I can do advising appointments in person. So wanted to make sure that everyone had our contact information. And I know I sped up at the end because I want to make sure if we had a few minutes, if we wanted to do questions or transition over.
Caitlin, you're muted.
We're gonna.
I will say I can answer the question in the chat while we're waiting. So yes, this is actually new as of today. So it does say that there are no advising appointments available because I'm actually today I will be updating our website to move from the current appointment system. We're going to be on OnCourse, which if any of you have used it for your advising appointments, or things like that, we'll be moving to OnCourse and you'll be able to schedule there. So that'll be updated probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning for appointments. So check back in there. I promise there are more. I just have to switch the websites over.
Sorry.
So we need to make it space. It is space.
We're working on it. 1 minute. Yeah, I don't have the ability to like mute or do anything or unmute.
Hey, Caitlin, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. So I don't, so my, thank you, Zaid. So my Zoom screen has frozen and will not let me control anything, but it seems that it unmuted itself, which we're just gonna roll with. So sorry about that, everyone. But we're just gonna keep on rolling then, and we're just gonna deal with whatever tech issues might come up. You would have thought after a year and a half of this, we would have it down by now, but that's all right. So Kayla, thank you very much for that presentation. That was super helpful. We are going to go ahead and transition then to hearing from Dr. Delane about his research and his advice on how you can get involved with that. I apologize, I'm not really sure what you're seeing on my screen right now, but as long as you can hear me, that's what matters. So Dr. Delane, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And thank you to Caitlin for organizing. And I think it's managing fine. We see you well. Everything is cool. Kayla, I think you did a great job. And so really, I don't have a lot to add, but I'm sure you know, as a professor, I can speak all day, so no problem. I put a link in the chat that points to my research. And I think the easiest way to start is just to describe the type of work that I do. I'm in the field of engineering education. And so basically what our field does is educational research in the context of engineering. And so if you think of the College of Education, all of the things that they do there, we do specifically for engineers. And so, K-12 research, undergrad, grad school, professional practice, basically the ways that engineers should develop, the ways that engineers are prepared to do their jobs, and the way they interpret their role in society is a space in which my field does research. So I put the link to my webpage in the chat. And so I perform research on community-based learning. So that's service learning, volunteerism, and outreach. And basically, in general, these forms of education have shown to be really impactful on students. I want to make sure that these practices are more equitable and so that the community partners benefit as much as students. So I look basically at how community-based learning can be made more reciprocal. And so I have partnerships around Columbus and internationally. I work with the service learning instructors here. I work with NSBE, SHIP, the student organizations, so that anytime that they're interacting or learning with or partnering with community members, my research supports making that more equitable. Does that make sense? Caitlin, and then did you want me to just jump into suggestions that I had, or I noticed that the agenda said questions, so.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions prepared to kind of kick us off, if that's all right with you. So first, if you could just share a little bit more about kind of your educational background and how you found your way into engineering and specifically your research interests.
Great, yes. So I started, so my undergrad and PhD, I don't have a master's on paper. My undergrad and PhD are both in electrical engineering. I went to Northeastern University in Boston, and I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. I entered electrical engineering just because kind of. I heard that they get paid well, and I wanted to get a good job. I was good at math and science, so I did that without really knowing what engineering was. Fast forward ahead, I had a job lined up. I got an offer to go to grad school with a fellowship, so I chose that. But I found myself in the lab not knowing what to do. And so this fits into the undergrad research piece. I was in grad school, but I had never done any research. And so I do think that the undergrad research, regardless of if you're going to professional workforce or graduate education, I think is an excellent idea. I find it kind of like glue that wraps your education together in a more meaningful way. That like the abstract ideas that you're working on in class sometimes can come to life in a lab. And so I think it's really great to like consolidate the learning and experiential learning, turn it into something that can affect yours and other lives rather than just like abstract learning that can sometimes happen in the classroom. And so in grad school, I started doing outreach. I started doing lab tours in the lab because I didn't know how else to contribute because I had never done research before. I started doing the lab tours really well. I started getting invited into schools, and then I was doing like K-12 outreach basically. I found out that K-12 outreach was a thing, was a field. Engineering education is the field that K-12 outreach and engineering fits into. And so I pursued that field and then ended up becoming a professor.
Awesome. And then could you also now talk a little bit, switching gears, about your advice for our students here today, especially any advice you might have for our students who hold underrepresented identities, and kind of any tips you might have for them in regards to getting involved with research and kind of being successful in the STEM field in general? Sure.
I second Kayla's excellent presentation. I think it was very well-rounded and hit on a lot of the big points. So I think the comments that I made are all in there, but I'm gonna perhaps pull them out in a different way. I think building relationships is very important. So for example, if you know somebody better, they can help you better. I don't know, let's see, Alyssa. Alyssa's major is electrical engineering. That doesn't necessarily point me to a lot of her interests, right? It could be that, sensors, robotics, or other things might be a tighter interest. So having a better relationship, I can know that, I can help better. Professors, advisors, upper class people, the undergrad research and creative inquiry office. Right, you heard Kayla offer office hours. Without even knowing if you want to go into research, you can meet with her, explain some of what you want to do, build a relationship, and then when an opportunity comes up, she can reach out to you. Professors are people. I know sometimes we may not feel like that, but I love chatting with people. And like I said, anyone who I know a little better, I can help better, I can invite, and I can share other opportunities with. Kayla mentioned identify and explore topics. I think a wide variety of topics might be helpful. You don't have to be in love with the space that you're into, that you're pursuing undergrad research in. It can either confirm or reinforce your interest in idea. Let's take sensors again. Hey, I'm joining a sensor lab. I'm doing research in sensors. After 3 months or a semester, you might find out, hey, wow, I dislike sensors. I don't want a career in that pathway. That could be very valuable, and you would still have something to pad your resume and more professional experience. Ask lots of questions and communicate openly. I think I always advise people not to send an email saying, hey, do you have a job for me? I always think crafting a professional email that is written as a win-win is really helpful. It's like, hey, I would like to make contributions in your lab along the ways of, right? So I'm a busy person. I have a lot of work to do. I can always use more help. And so I think suggesting that you have something to offer is a much better way to start a conversation than asking for help or asking for an opportunity. This came up, ask for money or volunteer. I do think, I'm in engineering, I think we might have access to more funds than some of the other rest of the majors. And I don't know what the majors of everyone here is. I really appreciated Kayla's advice of finding different pots of money and using them in different places. If you can pay yourself and it's not the professor's money, that's a huge win-win. So if you have step money, the other lines of funding that Kayla suggested are very valuable. If you tell the professor, hey, look, I can pay myself through work study, but I would love to work with you, it's really hard to say no to that. Last area that I, again, will supplement Kayla's good comments is make contributions. And so there are lots of ways that you can provide value to a lab in undergraduate research. It doesn't have to be, rigorous, high quality statistical analysis, right? Sometimes we need websites built. Sometimes we have busy work. Sometimes we need data that needs to be cleaned. And so there are lots of ways that you can contribute without having, an elite skill in research. And so find out ways that help is needed. Find out ways that your current skill sets intersect with the needs of the lab. Lean on your strengths. A good way of doing that is to partner with a graduate student in the lab, perhaps mirror them for a while and ask how you can help them. And so ultimately, I think the important part is to be valuable. When I have undergrads in my lab, and I consistently do, it's clear those who really know how to bring value. They all do it in different ways. But if you can become indispensable to someone's team, they're going to look out for you. They're going to support you moving forward, write letters of recommendation, continue to pay you, all those things. And so ultimately, I think building relationships, communicating openly, and making contributions and being valuable in the lab are a great way to build momentum for your career through undergraduate research.
And then the last question that I have for you, Dr. Delane, is from your perspective as a faculty member, are there things that you were looking for students to have in terms of certain skills or qualities when you're thinking about working with them in your lab?
Yes, definitely. Self-motivation and independence. Most faculty, I think especially early faculty, the younger faculty, the pre-tenure ones, the ones that are assistant professors, hustle, 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 hustle. And so needing to micromanage, needing to, really insist and follow up on people can be challenging. And so, your advisor, your research mentor asks for a task, find a way to get it done. Do it on your own. If you have a question, if you get stopped, circle back. Ask the grad student, ask other people, do what you can to solve something for the advisor, right? That's I think is a huge piece. Being professionalism. If, hey, I can't show up for a meeting, hey, this, that, and other, I think we all understand, let it be known. So communicate professionally. It kind of irks me when emails start with just the sentence. I don't know if I'm old school, but I think, it's part of positive communication. And then I think more so than being like, wow, I got to be super smart for this. Wow, I need to have all these skill sets. Commit, dedicate, and work hard. I think that always shows. I think, especially for undergraduate research, it's a developmental space. We're not expecting undergraduate researchers to be able to again, perform high quality statistical analysis. What we're expecting is someone who's coming ready to learn, ready to contribute, and ready to commit to do the work. And so I think those are the most important things that I would look for.
Awesome. Well, are there any questions from any of our participants in attendance? I unfortunately cannot see the chat, but if there are any questions, then maybe Kayla or Dr. Delane could help us out and help answer those. All right, and if there are no questions right now, Kayla did share their contact information for their office. They're a really great resource to reach out to. Dr. Delane shared a lot of great information about, how to get in contact with the faculty member and things they're looking for. And as mentioned, this session is recorded and is going to be posted on our YouTube channel at the end of this week. So if you ever want to go back and reference it at any point, you are able to do that. And then I do just quickly want to plug our last event of the week. It is going to be tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We will be having a discussion with some current doctoral students. So we have someone from, I think, pharmacology. We have general medicine. So you're going to get to hear about their experiences being in med school and kind of get to talk to the experts themselves. So that is everything that I have on the agenda for this event. If there are any last questions, oh, yep, go ahead. I see.
We did get one in the chat. So
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so we did get a question about advice on choosing research questions. And this is really good. And honestly, I have some suggestions, but I don't have anything specific because as I remember when I was a student, I proposed research questions to a mentor and she actually not kind of scrapped them, but helped me rebuild them into a really good formulated question. So if you don't really have questions that you can think of, but you have topics that you're interested in, so for example, if you really want to look at DNA repair and how that works with different conditions, that's something that you could write out if you don't have a specific question. But if you do want to look at some research questions, you can always look at work that your peers have done. So there is a good resource called the Knowledge Bank at Ohio State. And this is where senior theses go. So if you want to see what kind of questions other students have proposed in the past, you can read through some of theirs. But it's really just kind of looking at, what you're interested in, maybe you want to discover, but you can always say have your general, I'm interested in this, and then having it a little bit fleshed out at the bottom. And they can always help you pick a very specific research question. You don't have to have that when you're going into it.
I agree. In general, in my lab and from my experience, it happens similarly in other groups. Undergrads generally will be building a skill set and not necessarily jumping immediately to their own research task. And so, we all have ongoing projects, we all have ongoing areas where we do our work. And so really what happens is a small piece of that, a sliver of that, will be handed over to an undergrad researcher to explore. And so I think in any scenario, I think the ideal, like Kayla said, is working closely with the people in that lab group to determine a research question. I love this question. I think it shows that you understand the way that the game works, but I don't think anyone would expect you to come in and with the research question. As I'm interviewing someone, I'm not going to be like, hey, tell me your research questions, but more, hey, look, we can work together and we can explore one. One thing that will help, I believe. So let's say, again, your field of interest is electrical engineering. Do your reading, right? Show up prepared. One of the first tasks that I always ask undergraduate researchers to do is to familiarize themselves with the literature. I'll share all of my papers. I'll share the important papers in my field and ask them to read them and break them down and understand them. And so prior to a great way to wow a potential research mentor would be to say, hey, I read all your papers. This is what I understand. This is what I think is a path forward for some of your work, right? That would really wow someone like me. And so while a research question would be a great way to prepare, there are lots of ways that you could prepare to begin to understand the space. And I think a research question is a high order thing that might come later down the line once you're working with somebody.
All right, did we have any other questions come in? All right, well, thank you all very much for being here. Like I said, if anything does come up, you can feel free to reach out to our office or the Office of Undergraduate Research, and either of us would be happy to help connect you to the resources you need. But with that, thank you all for attending again. Hope to see some of you tomorrow at our last event with those doctoral students and med students. But other than that, have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Caitlin,
you.
thank you. I appreciate it.